Now we will officially begin our webinar. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and obviously good morning, Dr. Manor. It's very good to have you here with us. Today we have gathered here to discuss and learn about BJP's loss in Karnataka in recent state elections. If we look at the history of Congress, it had a strong hold on the state since 1952 till 1991. In 1996, Janata Dal formed the government in Karnataka. Then from 2004 till 2019, BJP had a stronghold over the political scene of Karnataka. Now again, Congress has reclaimed Karnataka. Is it because of religious polarization, absence of a strong face, or sidelining of prominent leaders? For explaining this multifaceted political shift taken by the people of Karnataka, we have invited Dr. James Manor. But before I hand over the floor to him, I'll briefly introduce him. Dr. Manor is a senior research fellow and emeritus professor of Commonwealth studies. Most of his work has focused on politics and state-society relations in less developed countries. Much of this has been on South Asia, mainly India. He has also written a political biography of former Prime Minister of Sri Lanka and edited a collection of papers on the crisis there in the mid-1980s. He has co-authored a book which focuses in part on Bangladesh. Over the years, he has been drawn increasingly into work comprising South Asia and other regions. One of these has been East and Southeast Asia. He has also compared experiments with democratic decentralization in South Asia and West Africa, and spent 2 extended spells in the new South Africa studying elite perceptions of poverty and democratic decentralization there. For the last 3 years, he had coordinated a Ford Foundation project on civil society and governance with research teams working in 22 countries. Most of those were less developed countries in the Middle East, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. But they also included the US, Poland, and Slovakia. He has also been associated with Woodrow Wilson Center in the US, Observer Research Organization, University of Pune in India, and International Center for Local Democracy, WISPE, Sweden. He has written a number of research papers, book chapters, and articles. With this brief introduction, over to you, Dr. Manor.
Thank you. I will talk for a little while, but I don't want to make this a complete monologue by me. So I will stop after making some comments to see if you have questions or if other participants have questions, and then we can go on in more detail. The BJP had been ruling in Karnataka since 2019. It did not hold power after the last state election. It fell short of a majority, but as it often does in Indian states, it enticed enough members of the opposition parties, other parties, to join the BJP, to defect to it, so that it got a majority that way. That's the second time this has happened in Karnataka. The government that the BJP provided in Karnataka was not particularly impressive. It was the corruption soared, as members of the BJP themselves admitted, and the ineffectiveness of government was also acknowledged by members of the BJP. Senior members, in private. So this was not an effective government since 2019. And in the state of Karnataka, no government has been re-elected since 1985. All governments have been thrown out by the voters, who are impatient and assertive and sophisticated. So to offer the people of Karnataka a poor government was asking for trouble, and the trouble emerged at the state election. At this election, the Congress party, which was there are 2 main parties in Karnataka, the BJP and the Congress. And there's a third party, the Janata Dal Secular, which has strength in southern districts of the state and picks up a few legislators, wins a few seats. The Congress Party this time won a majority, a very substantial majority of 138 seats in a state assembly of 224 members. So the Congress Party won a big victory. The BJP was embarrassed by its defeat, and the Congress Party now should be safe to govern for 5 years with that size of a majority. The BJP had some advantages in this campaign. It had huge amounts of money, much more money than all of the other parties in the campaign. In fact, this is a new feature of Indian politics since Mr. Modi became Prime Minister in 2014. The BJP at the last national election in 2019 had 18 times more money to spend than all of the other parties put together. We've never seen this kind of inequality in funding in India's history. The BJP, effectively as it could, but the money did not turn the election result. Money, in fact, in Indian state elections and national elections, money does not really decide elections, because in 70% of state elections in India since about 1980, in 70% or so of those elections, the party with the most money lost. And the same is true of national elections in India since that time. So money is not decisive in Indian elections. But the fact that the BJP has so much more money now than before, anybody has had before, means that the playing field is not level. The political playing field is not level in India, nor is it level in terms of media coverage, because the BJP has captured, persuaded most of the major mainstream media outlets to support it quite strongly. And so the playing field is also uneven in that sense and in some other ways. But despite that, the BJP lost this election because it offered the people of Karnataka a rather bad government, and because of other things. Now, the one other thing that mattered in this election was that the BJP pursued a rather divided strategy in seeking votes. On the one hand, the BJP used the caste calculus that it has used in the past, in which it receives a great deal of support from one of the dominant landowning groups in rural areas, the Lingayats. Its leader for a long time, who built the party, Mr. Yeddyurappa, was in fact a prominent Lingayat leader. But the BJP did not just rely on caste calculus. It also pursued, during its time in power, a hardline Hindutva agenda seeking to polarize society along religious lines. And a number of, a great many and its Muslim minority, about 14% of the population in Karnataka. This kind of polarizing campaign took many forms and went to really to great extremes. They were trying to turn Karnataka into the kind of polarized society that we find in North India, in Gujarat, in Uttar Pradesh, and in Western India, in Gujarat. But the people of Karnataka have never responded strongly in favor of religious polarization. They have always been rather hesitant about this, and the hesitations emerged this time, so that, for example, when attempts were made by the BJP government to prevent Muslim traders from selling vegetables and fruit outside temples or even on ordinary streets, when attempts were made to do this, the Hindu traders, who were commercial rivals of the Muslim traders, objected. And the Hindu traders appealed for a more constructive approach to the Muslim traders, and they rejected the Hindutva effort in that connection. The BJP also invented a story, a complete fiction, to claim that in the late 18th century, two Hindus, two members of the Wakaliga community. Wakaligas are the second landowning caste group with great numerical strength in Karnataka. They invented a story that two non-existent Wakaligas had actually killed Tipu Sultan, who had ruled much of Karnataka and had been defeated by the British. This was entirely an invention of the BJP, but it was intended to appeal to the Wakaliga vote. This backfired because the chief religious figure, the chief Swamiji in the Wakaliga community, objected to this nonsense that the BJP was peddling. And this was very public and very embarrassing for the BJP, and it damaged the BJP's appeal among Wakaliga voters who make a big difference in southern Karnataka. So in these ways, and in some other ways, the BJP's attempt to polarize society in Karnataka along religious lines, its attempt to inspire fear and anger towards Muslims, it backfired. It didn't work. So combining that with the old caste calculus was not effective in this campaign, and the BJP lost a lot of seats as a result of that. At the same time, the BJP had Prime Minister Modi campaigning around the state, making lots of speeches in his very dramatic manner, his assertive manner. And this was expected to produce a big benefit for the BJP, but that did not happen because, first of all, Modi was speaking in Hindi, and the people of Karnataka speak Kannada, a Dravidian language, which is a completely different family of languages from Hindi, from the Indo-European languages, of which Hindi is an example. So that, as it happens, Hindi is actually closer to English than it is to Kannada. The people of Karnataka could not understand what Modi was saying, and the translations that were offered at his speeches were ineffective, they delayed Modi, they made the occasion rather tedious. In addition to that, Mr. Modi developed some ideas in his speeches which seemed a bit odd to voters in Karnataka. There are various examples, but the most shocking, silly example was Modi's claim that if Congress won the election in Karnataka, they would have a soft approach to terrorists, and there's no evidence that that would happen or has ever happened. And second, and most strangely, Mr. Modi said that if Congress won the election, they would try to take Karnataka out of India. They would try to separate Karnataka from India. Now, I've studied Karnataka politics for 53 years, and I've talked to endless numbers of people in Karnataka who are involved in politics and who are not involved in politics. And I have never once heard anybody in Karnataka suggest that Karnataka should separate from India. This was a rather strange and alienating comment by Mr. Modi, his speeches therefore did not turn the tide in this election. So there's much more to say about the details of this election and about Karnataka's politics, and for that matter, about India's politics. But this election can be explained in part by the things I've been saying. The other thing to quickly say is that this victory for Congress in Karnataka, the defeat for the BJP, does not mean necessarily that the BJP will somehow lose the election, the national election, in May of next year, because people in Karnataka have sometimes voted quite differently in state elections and national elections. And that's also true of other Indian states. The BJP has recently lost an election in Himachal Pradesh, for example. It's done badly in certain other state elections. But when those states go to the polls in a national election, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, they support the BJP much more than they do in state elections. So we should not assume from the Karnataka result that the BJP will necessarily lose in 2024 in less than 1 year's time. The BJP is facing some challenges and difficulties in that national election. It may not be so easy for the BJP, but that does not mean that it will lose. Let me stop there and see if you have any comments or questions at this point. I can't hear what you're saying, I'm afraid. Forgive me.
Well, your reflections are totally different from what we were reading in the newspapers, and it is truly enlightening. My first question is that you said that the voters of Karnataka were impatient. Why do you say that? What is the reason for this observation?
That is an extremely difficult question to answer. I've been trying to answer that question for 38 years, I think it is, since the 1985 state election, where the Congress was defeated by the Janata Party. We know that the voters of Karnataka are impatient. We don't really know why the Congress voters, the voters of Karnataka, are impatient. I should, and if I begin to speculate on this, I don't think I would enlighten you very much, and I don't think I would satisfy myself about my answers. So I think this is a mystery that needs research, but I don't know what the answer to the mystery is.
Okay, that is nice. Another question that I had in my mind, and audience, if you also want to ask questions, you can raise your hands or you can write in the chat box. But before anyone else asks the question, I have another question. It's regarding the nature of South Indians. Do you think that South Indians are more democratic and they're more inclined towards having diversity in their culture, and they're against Hindutva?
Well, Hindutva has had, and the BJP has had great problems penetrating into South India. The only state there are 5 states in South, 6 if you count Puducherry. There are 5 states or 5 major states in South India. And the BJP has only once, in only one of these states, has it gained any power, and that's Karnataka. It's fallen short in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, in Telangana, and in Andhra Pradesh. It's a relatively minor force in those other states. The explanation for this is complicated, and the explanation is different from state to state. So that in Kerala, you have a strong leftist tradition in competition with a coalition of parties led by the Congress Party. In Tamil Nadu, you have two very strong Dravidian parties that emerged from the Dravidian movement, which is quite different from the leftist tradition of Kerala. But those two Dravidian parties occupy almost all of the political space in Tamil Nadu. And the histories of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh are again different from Tamil Nadu and from Kerala. So South India is a patchwork of diversity, politically speaking and socially speaking. What has happened in those states is that a couple of major parties, or in Kerala, a couple of coalitions of parties, two big coalitions, have occupied so much of the space that it's very difficult for any other party, for example, the BJP, to break through. But I think that it's also true that in their different ways, the histories of the four southern states, the five southern states, offer Hindu extremism, Hindu nationalism, limited opportunities to penetrate. The explanation for that is different from one state to the next. And I would need 3 hours to go into all of the details. But the South is certainly difficult territory for Hindu nationalism. And the defeat in Karnataka is especially painful for the BJP because of this, because that was their one opening that offered them a serious opportunity. I don't think that will change anytime soon. The BJP will win a national election, if it does, next year, on the basis of votes in the northern Hindi belt, in Western India, in Maharashtra and Gujarat, although it has serious problems in Maharashtra at the moment. And it may pick up seats in central India, in Chhattisgarh, and in Madhya Pradesh, and possibly Rajasthan. Now, that is where the BJP can build its majority in the Parliament of New Delhi. The South, it'll pick up a handful of seats, perhaps in the South. It might win, out of 27 seats in Karnataka, it might win 10 or 15 even, if it has a good run. But that victory, if it happens next year for the BJP, will be based in northern, western, and central India, not in eastern and southern India. In eastern India, the BJP also has problems in West Bengal and Orissa and Bihar. So its hope really lies elsewhere.
Okay, thank you so much. We have a question in the chat box by Mr. Imran Sardar. He wants to know that despite media management, money, and polarization of BJP, it has failed. So in other words, the populism has failed in Karnataka, on which BJP was relying. So how it is going to impact the general elections?
That's a very good question. In a general election, it may, those things, polarization, money, and perhaps the campaigns by the Prime Minister will perhaps have a stronger impact than in Karnataka. And the Prime Minister will also try to dramatize national issues in the parliamentary election next year, as opposed to state level issues, which were predominant in Karnataka. So those things may make a difference, particularly Hindutva, which has a Hindu polarization, which has an impact in northern and central India, and especially Modi's speech making in Hindi, which can be understood in much of northern and western India. Those things will make a difference. And the control of the media, which the BJP government in New Delhi has worked very hard to achieve over the last 9 years, that will make a difference, especially the control of the vernacular media, and especially in the Hindi belt. You need to understand that in India, press freedom has declined radically. The one International Journalists Association, in its Press Freedom Index, has ranked India alongside Myanmar in terms of measuring media freedom. This is deeply embarrassing for India, and this is the result of systematic efforts by the Indian government, the Modi government, to curtail press freedom. It does so partly by threatening journalists to express dissenting views, but more important than that are the enticements that the government offers to corporate big shots who own Indian newspapers and media and electronic media outlets. They offer these businessmen special benefits in terms of other enterprises that they may own. They offer them very lavish advertising revenues, and at the same time, they will threaten business houses which are critical of them. The government of India has a large team of media watchers who check what is appearing in the media every day, and when they find criticisms of Modi, they inform the government, and the government takes action to end that kind of criticism. It's not just the government that does this. The BJP itself has a huge team of media watchers who do the same thing. And in some cases, if a big media outlet becomes negative towards the BJP and towards the Modi government, bad things happen to it. So that when one Hindi language newspaper group, which has a wide readership, raised criticisms of the government's handling of the COVID crisis, within days, investigative teams from the government of India raided the offices and homes of members of editors and senior reporters in that media outlet in 30 cities on one day. This is the kind of treatment you can expect if you publish seriously critical comment. So that's partly why the media are now strongly pro-BJP, strongly pro-Modi.
Thank you very much. They are not even sparing BBC, so what to talk about the local media outlets? There is another question by Mr. Arish, so he wants to ask a question. Over to you, Arish.
Thank you, Professor Manor. First of all, I hope I'm clearly audible to you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It has really been enlightening, but there are two questions that I wanted to ask you. One is specific to the politics in Karnataka, that in Lok Sabha elections, BJP has not been doing that bad in Karnataka, especially when you compare its performance in the other southern states. So I would like to have your comment on that, the reasons why BJP is doing relatively better in Karnataka than the other states of the south. The second question, I want you to shed some light on the future trajectory of politics, national level politics or union level politics in India. We saw that during the oath-taking ceremony of Siddaramaiah, Sharad Pawar was there, M.K. Stalin was there. I think the Trinamool Congress leader Mamata Banerjee was not even invited. Akhilesh Yadav was not invited. Kejriwal was not invited. So there is also a talk going on. Nitish Kumar is trying to cobble up an alliance of all the opposition parties. Other political parties like Congress are questioning his leadership credentials. And it was supposed to happen on June 12th, but Rahul Gandhi was abroad. So now the opposition meet is going to happen on June 23rd. I wanted to have your comment on the possibility of the formation of any grand opposition alliance against the BJP. So these two questions, sir.
Thank you very much. These are you're a well-informed questioner, I must say. The BJP has done better in Lok Sabha elections in Karnataka than in some state elections, partly because the BJP within the state of Karnataka suffers from poor performance by successive BJP governments. One earlier BJP government was led very, very ineptly, in very odd and embarrassing ways by Mr. Yeddyurappa, who was the state level leader who built the party. And in the last, over the last 4 years or so, the BJP had governed really very, very badly in Karnataka, so that many development programs did not happen. There was vast corruption in the system. And one engineering group in Karnataka complained to the prime minister that they were having to pay 40% bribes in order to get contracts to do work, etc. So that the state level issues, the state level realities have hurt the BJP in the state assembly elections in the past. And when a national election comes along, you then get a whole different set of issues. The people in Karnataka have always been, since the early 80s, we have clear evidence that they can see the difference between a national election and a state election. And they often vote in different ways in these elections, sometimes in radically different ways. So I think that's part of the explanation for the success of the BJP, comparative success in Lok Sabha national elections. The future of opposition unity in India is an extremely important topic. The situation is quite complicated. Many parties in the opposition would like to unite against the BJP at the coming national election in May of next year. And I should say that almost every opposition leader in India understands that opposition unity is necessary in order to defeat the BJP and Modi. And many of them understand that if Modi is reelected again in 1 year's time, then the future of Indian democracy may be in danger, because his authoritarian project systematically dismantling the democratic process in India will have another 5 years to run. And that may be too much for the democratic order to survive. So many of them understand all of that. But those opposition leaders in different political parties are also self-interested. They want their party to do extremely well. And sometimes that means they want other opposition parties not to do so well. So that, for example, in the Union Territory of Delhi, you have the Congress party wanting to come back to power there at the next state election. And you have the AAP, the Aam Aadmi Party, holding power in Delhi and not wanting to keep Congress down. In other states, you have Congress in competition with other opposition parties. Sometimes you have Congress is out of the picture, but you have different other opposition parties in conflict with one another. The Congress leaders are perhaps remembering how they once were the dominant party in India, and therefore are prepared not to invite Akhilesh Yadav, an important Uttar Pradesh leader, to the Karnataka swearing in, not to invite Mamata Banerjee, who is a very forceful chief minister of West Bengal. And so the divisions between opposition parties are really a serious matter. So that I think what we will see before the next parliamentary election in May of next year is that some opposition parties will form a kind of front, perhaps led by Nitish Kumar, the chief minister of Bihar. Other opposition parties will keep clear of that alliance because they are in conflict with some members of the alliance. And you have certain chief ministers like Naveen Patnaik in Odisha, who has been re-elected many times, he will try to keep clear of any alliance, and he will also try to keep a certain distance between himself and the BJP, because he feels he's better off operating as a lone wolf, and he's been very successful. So before the election, before polling day in May of next year, in the national election, I think we will see only a partial unity in the opposition because of all these suspicions. But what might happen is that the BJP could fall short of a majority in parliament, in the Lok Sabha. It's possible. If that happens, then I think we will see much more opposition unity after the results come in, because these leaders that I've been discussing in the opposition parties will see their opportunity to gain power in a coalition government in New Delhi, and to keep Modi out, because Modi has been a thorn in all of their sides all these years. So I think what may matter is how much opposition unity happens after, but not before, polling day.
That is a big thing to say, that the BJP can lose the majority. While talking about the promises that have been made by the Congress, I wanted to know that there is one promise of Congress of banning Bajrang Dal. So do you think that they are going to ban Bajrang Dal?
I don't know. The BJP, the Congress, some people in Congress would certainly like to ban the Bajrang Dal. But they have many, Congress in Karnataka has many extremely important objectives that it needs to pursue quickly, especially with the national election coming next year. If they can perform well over the next 12 months, 11 months, they might win a lot of Lok Sabha seats in Karnataka, who knows? And I think if they seek to ban the Bajrang Dal, it'll be a distraction from the development programs that they want to and from the programs of benefits to important groups in Karnataka that they want to emphasize. And also, if the Congress state government in Karnataka bans the Bajrang Dal, that will be challenged in the courts, and it is almost certain that the Supreme Court or higher courts, even the High Court of Karnataka, will strike down the ban by the state government. So they would be, in a sense, fighting a battle they cannot win. So I don't expect that to happen soon, but you never know. I should quickly say that if we think about ways in which the BJP could lose its majority in the national parliament next May, we need to go from state to state. And we can see that the BJP has just lost an election in Himachal Pradesh in the Himalayas in the north. It's just lost Karnataka. It was very badly defeated in the last state election in the Union Territory of Delhi, and in the huge state of West Bengal. In Western India, in Maharashtra, the BJP had a government, had formed a government, but then it collapsed when the Shiv Sena, which is somewhat Hindu nationalist in its outlook, broke away from the BJP and formed an alliance with Congress. And since then later the BJP enticed some people to defect and it came back to power. But the point is that in Maharashtra, the second largest Indian state, the BJP has got a problem that may cost it a lot of seats in the parliamentary election. The BJP could lose seats it could lose a lot of seats in Bihar, another huge state. It will probably lose significant number of seats in Odisha. And the Congress party is strong in Rajasthan, and it's strong in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh across central India. If the BJP loses seats in these places, it will be very difficult for it to find a majority in the Lok Sabha, because the seats that it will surely win in Uttar Pradesh, the biggest state, and in Uttarakhand next door, and in Gujarat in Western India, that will not be enough to give it a majority. So it's not unthinkable that the BJP could fall short of a majority in national election of next year, but it won't be easy for the opposition.
We have another question by Ms. Sumaira Iqbal. She wants to know that Modi remains the most popular leader and he's assumed to be the next prime minister as well in 2024. So do you think anyone can succeed him in BJP?
In the BJP, no one.
Yes. No one? Don't you think Amit Shah or Yogi Adityanath can take the position in future?
It's important to understand that there are big problems for the BJP if Modi passes from the scene. Amit Shah is his number two, his enforcer. And Yogi Adityanath in Uttar Pradesh is a very prominent and inflammatory figure in Indian politics and certainly gets a lot of attention. But you have to understand what Modi has done to the BJP. Before Modi, the BJP had a strong organization at national, state, and local levels. It was run in a democratic manner, somewhat democratic manner, the BJP, before Modi. Since Modi took over in 2013-14, Modi has radically centralized all power that's possible in his own hands within the party. He's imposed one-man rule on the party, and he's trying to impose one-man rule on India. Only one leader in India has tried this before, that was Indira Gandhi, and it didn't work out. Modi, by centralizing power so radically, has weakened the organization of the BJP. He's hollowed out the organization of his own party. So he's not only weakened the many other institutions in the political system, whether it be the courts, the federal system, the bureaucracy, the investigative agencies, et cetera, et cetera. He has deinstitutionalized, that is, he has weakened institutions of government, but also he has weakened the institution of his own party, which is, and he's made it dependent entirely on him. Now, if you think of Amit Shah, his most powerful lieutenant, as a partner of Modi, then you are wrong. Because every time we see Amit Shah interacting with Modi, Modi is handing out orders, and Amit Shah is saying, yes, Sahib, yes. If we have numerous photographs of meetings between Amit Shah and Modi in which Amit Shah kisses Modi's hand as if he were a kind of mafia boss. Modi has been, his image has been inflated, his personality cult has been inflated by numerous senior members of the BJP, saying Modi has traces of God in him. That man was then made vice president of India. Another man said, no, Modi is a god. He is a god. And then somebody else decided they should top that and say, no, he's the leader of the gods. This kind of wild inflation of a personality cult gives you an idea of how large Modi looms in the party as well as in Indian politics. If Modi were to pass from the scene, he's in good health, I think, but he's in his 70s, but in good health. But if he were to pass from the scene, then I don't think either, there would be a struggle between Amit Shah and Yogi Adityanath and some other people joining in, but I think the party, which has been hollowed out, would be in very serious trouble because of its dependence on the great leader. So we should not necessarily assume that the authoritarian project, the polarization project that Modi has pursued will survive Modi.
One last question. Why do you think that former Chief Minister BS Yeddyurappa was sidelined? Because some people are saying that it is because of him sidelining the political scene in Karnataka that eventually led to the win of Congress.
Right. Well, the man, Mr. Yeddyurappa, who was chief minister in Karnataka on several previous occasions, and again after the defection of Congress people to BJP in 2018-19, Yeddyurappa was sidelined by the national leadership of the BJP for several reasons. First of all, Yeddyurappa was over the age limit that BJP leaders are supposed to observe in holding office. Second, Yeddyurappa had a history of being extremely autocratic within the BJP, so that he had caused huge resentment amongst activists and other leaders in the state level BJP. I remember interviewing two young activists of the BJP 15 years ago and asking them about Yeddyurappa, and they were so angry with his autocratic ways that one of them started to weep. I've conducted hundreds and hundreds of interviews in South Asia, and I've never seen anybody break down in tears except on that one occasion. Also, Yeddyurappa was very autocratic in his dealings with the national level BJP. He wasn't taking orders, and he was often rather inept at covering his tracks when big money was being raised through bribery and deals. As the BJP, one national level BJP leader actually openly said, don't you have a lawyer? Don't you have an accountant who can help you cover these things up? And finally, Yeddyurappa, like most BJP leaders in Karnataka, was not an extreme Hindutva fanatic. He always took special care to reassure the Muslim minority in Karnataka that under his government they would be protected. He genuinely thought this was the best way to behave, both because it was right and because it was politically sensible. So all of these things made Yeddyurappa an unattractive leader to the national level BJP leaders. And they imposed their own man, who was a weaker leader, and that opened the door to the extreme Hindutva campaign against Muslims, which it then launched and which backfired at the election.
Thank you very much. Now I will hand over the floor to my colleague, Mr. Radesh. He has deep interest in domestic politics of India. So over to you, Radesh, for concluding.
Thank you so much, Mayam. It was really informative for me. I really learned a lot from Professor Manor's presentation. I agree with him that, it's south of India has its own peculiar dynamics, and whatever applies to the Hindi belt or the cow belt does not necessarily apply to the south of India, which has its own culture, its own linguistic identity. Professor Manor said that, some opposition parties might come together, some might be left out. I'm not sure whether that would be a good thing or not, because if some parties, for instance, form a Mahagathbandhan under, for instance, Nitish Kumar, and Congress is left out, I don't know whether that would help the cause of the opposition to unite, to pose a united challenge to the BJP or not. But I really, what really set me thinking about Professor Manor's presentation was when he said that BJP might fall short of majority in the 17th Lok Sabha, which actually set me thinking. And when I thought about, all the 5 power states that we usually talk about, for instance, the BJP might win UP, the largest state by population of India, but it might, as Professor Manners pointed out, face challenges in Maharashtra because of its split with Shiv Sena notwithstanding what it did to Shiv Sena afterwards, but it would have its challenges in Shiv Sena. And the other power states like West Bengal is already under the grip of Mamata Banerjee. Bihar has slipped out of BJP's control because of Nitish Kumar's changing sides once again. And Tamil Nadu has also been captured by DMK. MK Stalin's government is there. It might also not be in favor of BJP. So when we look at the statistics of all these 5 power states, BJP has the upper hand only in the UP. So that gives us some hope. As far as Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, and Madhya Pradesh are concerned, which Professor Manor mentioned, I think a lot would depend on how the state assembly elections pan out right before the Lok Sabha elections earlier next year. And I think that would be a very good litmus test of how the BJP might perform in those states when comes the Lok Sabha election. When it comes to Naveen Patnaik, the people sitting on the fence, Naveen Patnaik, leaders like Naveen Patnaik or Chandrababu Naidu of Andhra Pradesh, my hunch is that they might, want to side with the BJP. Naveen Patnaik has good relations with Draupadi Murmu, the Indian president. Chandrababu Naidu doesn't like YSR Congress leader Jagan Mohan Reddy, so he might want to side with the BJP because of that. And one final thing, Mariam, on Bajrang Dal, the Congress's state level leadership in Karnataka never said in their manifesto that they're going to ban Bajrang Dal. What they said in their manifesto was that they would take action against both PFI and Bajrang Dal. So the banning of Bajrang Dal was never under discussion. It was only taking action against Bajrang Dal that was under discussion. Even though you've asked me to give concluding remarks, and I wanted to conclude on this, but I would still want to have Professor Manor's response, if any, to my concluding remarks. Thank you.
So
thank you very much.
Yes.
I will be brief. And I think the one important thing that you mentioned is the possibility that some state level leaders, after the votes are counted next May in the national election, some state level leaders might choose to go with the BJP rather than with the opposition coalition that is developing. The BJP could offer those parties substantial attractions, even though it's been a rather bad coalition partnered with others in recent times. Many parties have walked out of the BJP's alliance in frustration. But I think back to governments in the 1990s and the government between the Congress led between 2004 and 2014 in India. And I think of how the DMK, which is a regional party in Tamil Nadu, managed to get ministers into those governments under both the BJP leadership and the Congress leadership. And the reason it really wanted those positions was because they could get hold of national level ministries and milk them for huge fundraising, illicit fundraising. The DMK in Tamil Nadu made huge amounts of money milking ministries under different national governments. Now the BJP, if it needed some seats, some MPs from one or another state, might offer them this kind of opportunity. And other parties in the past have also, other regional parties have used such opportunities. So the BJP might offer that kind of attraction, but a lot depends on the arithmetic, on the numbers of seats that different parties hold. So we will just have to wait and see.
Thank you so much, Professor Manor, for giving us a lot of food for thought and a lot of hope. But I think one other point that I missed in my concluding remarks was that you rightly pointed out the way media is under restrictions under the BJP government, and it is very important for the functioning of a democracy. India is boasts of being the largest democracy of the world. So I think in that sense, it is very important that media remains free in India and its democracy. Thank you so much once again, Professor Manor. It was really insightful and really enlightening. Thank you. Over to you, Mariam.
Thank you, Arish, and thank you, Dr. James Manor. It was truly a pleasure and a great learning experience, and we really enjoyed talking to you and listening to you. And I hope that we are going to have more interactions with you regarding India's internal politics. Thank you so much. That is the end of our webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.